Uh-huh. God.
It got to like third place. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pueblo County Work Session and Staff Update Meeting. Today's date is July 23rd, and the time is 9:48. We will take attendance beginning with Mr. Hirsch.
Brendan Hirsch, Interim County Attorney.
Paula McFeeters.
Zach Swearingen.
Miles Lucero. Robert Choi, CEO.
Thank you to everybody else in attendance. I think first we have a presentation from Gregory McKim and Nextera with a check presentation.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Hope you're well. Thank you for having us today. We are here to present checks that correspond with our recently executed road use agreements for Mirasol and Thunderwolf. We did already provide Public Works with a check for about $1.4 million related to our Highland Solar project that's recently started construction. So today we have $464,000 related to the Mirasol road use agreement and $284,000 check for the Thunderwolf project. In total, all three of these projects are about $2.1 million for these agreements. Just wanted to give this to you. Wanted to just reiterate how much we appreciate the partnership with the county and Public Works and all that we're doing here. We're very excited to bring these projects to life. The new process for these road use agreements has been very streamlined, very smooth. Thank you to Greg for all of his help in making these happen so quickly. We're excited to be able to present these checks today. I did also want to mention that once these projects do start construction, I know that Highland has started already. We do have every intention to continue communication with the county and with Public Works and all the appropriate people that need to be involved and minimize the impact to the road as much as possible.
Good morning again, commissioners. Mark Goebel with NextEra Energy. It's good to see you again. I know we've sucked up a lot of your time over the past month with the Buffalo Burr project, so I appreciate you all taking the time out with us today. But the other thing I wanted to highlight is sometimes for us it's frustrating. From a standpoint of we understand the commission's perspective and what the commission wants to accomplish and some of the things that we've talked about in the past month. And we have worked really hard to try to facilitate that and do what we can to impact those things. And it's frustrating on our side because we do a lot of work in the community and we want to do everything that we can because I believe we owe it to the county of Pueblo with what we've done here. So in addition, sometimes we can't, respond to the certain things that we want to that are top of mind, but we were able to also get a check for $25,000 approved for the United Way. So we'll be looking to present that to Shanna and her team in the coming weeks. So we really enjoy the relationship that we have. As Brittany was saying, we have an excellent relationship. We've been in this community for a long time, and I believe that we owe it to the community. So we're more than happy to do everything that we can within our power to facilitate that, to do our part. We will minimize the impact, as Brittany was talking about, to the roads and continue in communication in hopes that some of that 2.1 million is left over and the county can do what they will with it to repair other parts of the road and so on and so forth. So really appreciate the relationship we've created here, the team, the planning department, the Public Works department, and we look forward to continuing that in the future. So thank you for your time today, commissioners.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. We always like getting checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And again, been good partners and we, obviously we are going to continue those conversations and I appreciate just the conversations on a whole plethora of things to try and better the community and the areas that you guys are inhabiting. So we certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Thank you very much. I think more than the checks to the county, which I very much appreciate, and I'm glad that our new haul route agreement process is working out well. But more than that, to raise 25 grand for the fire and to, be willing to make that contribution to the United Way and the victims, that means a lot to us. And we really appreciate that.
I concur. I would only add, your understanding of that asset that we have, the roads that we utilize in Pueblo County, and you using them as in a reliable way, and also in a way of saying, we know we're going to use it. We want to help you repair it. That's an important step because we've had some development where that has not occurred. And we want to make sure that we're good stewards for our citizens as well as for you as businesses coming in. And I want to say thank you for understanding the process that we've had to implement because, as you go through things, you learn assets that your community has can also be a detriment if they're not taken care of well. So I want to say thank you for understanding that and also for your generosity to our community. We've been through something pretty devastating the last month, and I think it means a lot to know that you care about that. So thank you again for your help and assistance.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That will bring us into a presentation from Lynn Clark and Harp.
Good morning, Commissioners. How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
So I did send some information over to Tricia yesterday. There's a memo from me kind of outlining why I'm here today. I also sent a copy of the HARP IGA so that you could all be familiar with that. So this is budgeting season for the Riverwalk, and per the IGA, prior to August 20th, I'm supposed to go to my board of directors and give them the layout and the plan for the next year. So the staff and I sat down and we looked at what revenue we bring in on our own at HARP and then what the expenses are for next year. And that's how we come up with the 50-40 share between the county and the city. The city pays 50% of the shortfall. The county has, in the agreement, it says 40%. So I think we do the best we can with the money we're given. We're very judicious about spending money. There's no excess in this budget. We don't have reserves. Our operating reserve is actually our cash flow to pay our bills. So that's something to think about. And I think you all understand that because you've got things going on in the county too. But we're a very small organization with a very small budget. And when a partner does not give me enough information early enough in my budgeting or early enough at the end of this coming year, I can't make a plan for next year. Right? So that's why I'm here today. In the past, we've not been given any clue as to what amount the county is going to contribute till I'm in that fiscal year. We run on a calendar year, and when I don't know till February or March, I can't plan. There's maintenance projects that don't get done because when we drain the channel, we've missed that window because I have no idea about how much money I have in January or February. And that's when we do a lot of our maintenance work on the channel itself. So I know you're not all intimately familiar with how we do things down there, but when I don't know, things don't get fixed. This is a very valuable asset to our entire community. Yes, it's in the city of Pueblo, but they're all city residents, right? When I get questions about maintenance, I have to tell them, it's like, well, I couldn't do it this year. I didn't know how much money I had. The other partners have stepped up to the plate. Urban Renewal is looking at funding our capital outlay for this year. So that's going to happen early in the year and I can have a plan, but I cannot use any of that money for administrative costs or operational things within my budget. It's limited to capital outlay. So I'm here today to kind of ask for early communication, more communication, and questions. If you don't understand the operations, if you don't understand why it's so important, I want to hear from you. It's a two-way conversation. I've been here 17 years. That's a long time. It's the longest I've ever worked anywhere, not because I get to pick, I'm a big deal. I'm not a big deal in the community. I come to do the work. My staff comes to do the work. None of us are paid enough. We show up every day and give 150%. And I would just ask for more professional respect for what we do in my office from this group. And I think the mayor would like to make a comment on the partnership agreement.
Morning, commissioners. I'm here on behalf of the city of Pueblo. As you know, we share many intergovernmental agreements with the county where we're both responsible for some kind of funding for these center points, HARP being one, Health Department being another one, in which we joint fund based off of an IGA. And I know that things are tight at the county, as they are at the city. The city is well underway with its 2027 proposed budget and how we're going to be funding some of these partnerships that I'm speaking about. And so it would be beneficial for the city to also be made aware early on of what your funding is going to look like in these partnerships going into 2027's budget. Over the last several years, the county has underwhelmingly funded this IGA, especially to where the city of Pueblo has had to pick up those additional dollars. The budget is set. As Lynn said, we didn't even receive notice for the HARPS funding till almost February of the year that we're budgeting for. So the city of Pueblo had to add additional funding of $200,000 through the Urban Renewal Authority just to cover 2026's budget. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that for 2027 or years after. So the funding, the two funding sources that they heavily rely on, it's really important for us to communicate to them what dollar amounts we're going to be able to provide for 2027, so that they have a plan moving forward, as the city also needs a plan moving forward. So I'm just here to advocate on behalf of the city, the HARP board, and all of our other agreements that we mutually share funding responsibilities to. We're trying to be as transparent and forthcoming with the county on where we're able to provide funding and to what extent. We see this as a partnership, both the governments, not just on HARP, but Health Department, other relationships that we have. We're here to be a good partner. We just need some transparency and some type of direction, and we can't wait till February or March of 2027 to be making these decisions on how we're going to fund the city's portion of this for this coming budget. So thank you very much for listening to us, and happy to answer any questions or meet with you whenever you're prepared.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to speak to this because I happen to be the board member serving on the HARP Authority. And one of the things being in this job that has been a conflict for me, and I'll be honest with you, I sit in this seat representing the county and budget authority for the county. But to sit on a board and have impact on that budget is a conflict of interest in a way, because my primary authority is with this board to fund the operations of our government. Sitting on another board, asking for funds of this board, I have to recuse myself of the funding decision for this particular group because I'm actually on the board. So I think there's a lot of confusion being on a board of an agency that this county funds and making those decisions. And I've talked at length with our attorneys about that as well. There is a conflict of interest when we fund organizations and we sit on the board of said organization. And so in the future, that is not a conversation I believe I should have any input in. That's going to be up to you two, because I am on this board to advocate for what funding they need. But I can't vote on that funding as a member of this board because it's a conflict of interest in my role as a county commissioner serving the community with our total budget resources. So I want to say that up front, Lynn. I appreciate your comments today. I would love for you to be more notified. I found out in January really what our financial picture was looking like, and I informed the board myself in person with you all to explain the situation the county was in. Tried to do my due diligence there. And I think one of the difficulties is in explaining where we are with our budget. I know it's hard for those that are not in the middle of what we're dealing with to understand, but we've had to make some tough calls on a lot of things. And this one was especially tough because sitting on the board, I know the need, I know what you do, I know how you operate, I know what your functions are, but I also have to pay attention to what our county is facing. And so that conflict for me became very real in February. And I did let you know as soon as I knew the reality that was going to hit your budget in conversations with this board. So I want to make it perfectly clear. It's not an exercise of keeping you in the dark. Last year was one of those years that it came to light later than what we thought. And so I just want to say, I'm sorry if it seems like a lack of transparency, but honestly, we were in a position of finding out things that we did not know before. So we want to be transparent, we want to be clear. And in my role as a county commissioner, on every board I serve, whether it's this board or the Chamber of Commerce for Pueblo West or any other funding mechanism, me being on the board is not your way in to get the funding, because I have to delegate that decision to these two, because it's a conflict for me to say, yes, you should get the funding when I'm on your board. And I want to make that clear, because I think I've expressed to you my concerns about us serving on boards in the community puts us in a tough spot, especially when the budgets aren't good. It's easy when we have lots of money to say yes to every request, but when we're facing cuts, it takes a little bit more discipline to say, I really am not, I have a preference for one over the other. And I think that needs to be said publicly, that we have to be clear that we're not pushing for funding in areas that maybe we have a preference for. So that's my transparency with the community, is saying to you, with your tax money, that's my dividing line of making decisions, is if I have a preference, I'm going to step back and let this board decide without me pushing you in a certain direction. And, I've been in discussions with our county attorney about the IGA as well. And Mr. Hirsch, I would love to hear your interpretation of what the county should be looking at in that IGA, and what you think the founding principles of that IGA are, and if we are abiding by it in the way that you feel is appropriate.
Well, Commissioner, I totally agree with you. I think what would be important is to read the relevant section from the IGA so that everyone's hearing it at the same time. And then I would also love Mr. Hirsch's legal opinion on that portion. So I think the relevant portion that we're talking about is Article 4.5. To be clear, this was the IGA established in 2008. And I will just go ahead and read the relevant section. The parties are the city and the county, primarily. The parties hereby declare their present intention and expectation to annually appropriate and budget a pro rata equitable share of the expenses in excess of revenues for the promotion, management, supervision, operation, development, and maintenance of HARP as follows. Beginning in 2008 budget year, the parties' share of expenses in excess of revenues shall be as follows: 50% by city, 40% by county, with the balance to be shared as follows. The Urban Renewal Authority, $20,000 a year, with the intent to be increased to a maximum of $50,000 per year. And district, I apologize, but I'm not exactly sure what district that is, $50,000 per year in addition to any maintenance reimbursement. Provided, however, that this declaration shall not be construed as contractually obligating or binding on any party. Provided further that the obligation of the Pueblo Conservancy District is further conditioned on the Pueblo Conservancy District receiving funding from a proposed maintenance fee assessment levied upon property benefited by the Arkansas River levee maintained by the PCD. It is the further intent of the parties that the decision to budget and appropriate funds for the promotion, management, supervision, operation, and maintenance of HARP shall be made solely by the respective governing body of each party and not by the HARP board or any officer of the parties. Any obligation of a party to budget and appropriate funds for the promotion, management, supervision, operation, development, and maintenance of HARP shall be from year to year only and shall not constitute a mandatory payment obligation of the party in any fiscal year beyond a fiscal year during which such funds are budgeted and appropriated. So we'll let the lawyers interpret that for us. However, I do want to say a couple things. I agree with you that we need to do a better job of giving you advance notice. I fully admit that the way that the budget conversations were handled in 2025 for the 2026 budget year were not good. And if that's what you're talking about, Ms. Clark, as far as disrespect, then I hear you and I can tolerate that. What I cannot tolerate is the idea that any of us have treated you, the staff, the mayor, or any board members disrespectfully personally. I know I haven't, and I would be shocked if my colleagues had acted disrespectfully. The act of not appropriating as much money as you would have liked us to appropriate in and of itself is not a disrespectful act, ma'am. So I do take that comment, I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. And because I have been nothing but respectful, I value absolutely what the HARP does for our community. I fully understand that it is not a city versus county issue. I agree with the mayor 100% that we have to work together. We have these very important projects and organizations that we jointly fund. And we must do a better job of giving advance notice to the city and our partner organizations. And I fully agree on that point. Mr. Hirsch, if you can kind of give your interpretation of how that reads, I don't think it takes a lawyer to interpret based on my reading, but if you don't mind talking to that.
Yes, Commissioner. So obviously the 50-40 split is a good faith attempt at coming to an agreement. However, the multiple provisions that you read explicitly state that this is not contractually obligating the county. There's appropriation language in there. Quite frankly, the county can't spend the money it doesn't have. And so it's my interpretation. You can get as close as you want to that 40%. If you can't, there's no legal obligation to spend money that you don't have. And frankly, I think contractually, the board can spend whatever it wants and be in good legal shape. So
Thank you. And so I hope you understand where we're coming from. We have funded very few organizations this year, and the big dollar amounts went to what I consider services that the government should provide, such as health department, such as Humane Society, these services that we cannot take on, and it makes much more sense to have a regional partnership with the city to provide these services to the community. We're in a situation where we're laying off staff, we're holding positions vacant, we're 26 people short in our road and bridge department alone. It's hard to sell to the organization and the community that we have to lay people off when we're giving money to nonprofits. I know it's a balance. I know we do have an obligation as a government to fund nonprofits. It's really important, but it's a trade-off, right? And that's where this consideration came from. It's nothing other than our budgetary restrictions. It's not a consideration of, well, is the HARP a good return on the investment for us if we give this money? It has nothing to do with that in my mind. If the money existed, we would give it. The money simply does not exist in this moment. And that's why we've told almost every organization across this community no when they come to ask us for money.
Yeah, I think you guys both touched on most everything. The reporting, we certainly can attempt to do that. But to Paula's point, I think we got you numbers as soon as we really could. We will be better about that, and we will get those numbers to you, because it's not fair for you to try and budget with not the full picture. And we realize that the city's in a budget crunch too. And yeah, I agree with Miles, and Heather, that we are going, not just this, but so many other things that we need to work together. And I personally don't see the Riverwalk as just some city amenity that is removed from county, benefit at all. But again, we can't spend the money that we don't have. I think that we all need to start getting creative on what we can do to generate more revenue, specifically down there. I know that you guys fundraise. I know that you have events, but I think that we certainly can go back in and look at numbers and see, if we miss something, have our CFO talk with y'all and see if there's something there. But I again agree with Miles that it's really tough for us to be having, reductions in force and, all these other things, and really not funding, quite frankly, any other nonprofits or a lot of different organizations out there that are not absolutely crucial for operations within the city and the county. But we can certainly go back in and look, and I don't want it to come across as us being disrespectful at all. We know that the Riverwalk is a massive amenity for this community. So whatever we can do to help y'all generate more revenue down there, to promote things, to again scrub ourselves and look, there may be something that we haven't seen as far as the budget, but it's just a very, very difficult year for us, as everybody knows. And we're trying to kind of claw our way out and above above all, the fire has been catastrophic to the victims themselves, but it is a massive financial hit to this county for years to come, that we have to also adjust for and look at. But, you know, yeah, I don't think any one of us are trying to be disrespectful at all. But I think that we need to do our due diligence and fund this organization. And we are still in the process of scrubbing ourselves, so to speak, and seeing where we are bloated, seeing where we are not spending money most efficiently, because if anything else, a budget deficit will certainly shine a light on your operations and where you're spending money and how you're best spending money.
I just want to add that the city has also frozen over 40 positions. We are not giving raises to our employees. We are not hiring new employees. We are not funding any other nonprofits within our community, just as you have all said you're doing. But I think the reason that we're here today is because we just continue to have this unknown conversation. And I think that that is what Lynn is talking about with the disrespect portion. I know she's not saying that the county commissioners are disrespectful to the HARP, but my concern is you have your attorney and Commissioner Lucero, who's read from the agreement today and saying just because it's a good faith effort, the city doesn't have to abide. I think that that's kind of a punch to the city because we are in a good faith effort and we are trying to still fund this particular non-departmental through the city. Your obligations for the health department and HSPPR are much different to the city and to those two entities because you do have legal binding agreements. And so I think that that's kind of an unfortunate way to try to get out of not paying, is saying, well, this is a good faith effort. I think that when the founding fathers of the HARP put this together, it was all a good faith effort. And I understand that times have changed. But to say that you don't have to fund it because the legal document doesn't say, or that you can reduce their funding, I think that's a bigger conversation that should be had between the city and the county and not maybe the HARP. Because we are funding this in a good faith effort as we are funding all of our other non-departmentals that we share with the county in a good faith effort. And so I think just to say that you don't have to fund it because the document says fund when you can, if you can, I think that's not very good cooperation between the city and the county, because we have the same type of budget issues, and I'm not coming to you saying I'm not going to fund our portion because it just merely says that we don't have to fund it. So I think that that's maybe a conversation for the commissioners and the city to have outside of the HARP, and what we can do and how we can jointly work together to make sure the HARP continues to thrive, as well as all of the other IGAs that we jointly fund. It's important work. It's important work that everybody does in our community. And so I hope that we can find a path forward.
So I don't disagree that we need to get together and talk the numbers on all the IGAs that we're partners in. And we should, Workday and all these other issues of us not having current numbers is an issue for the county. We are certainly trying to correct that now. But I think what I've been told is that we should by mid-August have last year. And I think at that point, that gives us a better roadmap on moving forward. So I think that once we get those, that we do reconvene as the city and the county,
Have
and
better
not specific to HARP. Yeah, and just lay the numbers on the table and say, this is what we've got going on.
I would just like to add, one of the complications with the IGA is the idea that the split is guaranteed. And I think that's where maybe the conversation has gone, is that we're not compelled to a split. We're compelled to support where we can. And we did this year, we were able to do 150,000. The original ask, I believe, was 490. I put forward, could we do 330?
Yeah.
And in the decision, the 150 was settled. So it's not that we haven't contributed anything, but when I look at your next year request, 2027, from the county, you're requesting 360. So is that the function of this meeting today, is to ask in advance for the 360 for 27, that we consider that when we look at our budget next year? I mean, I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, I think the function is just to have continued conversation so that we know where the city's budget is going to be and where the HARP's budget is going to be. And we're not having to figure out those numbers
Sure.
next year once the city's budget is already passed. I think that that's kind of where we are. I mean, the city funded it almost $600,000 for this year's budget, with the additional 200,000 from the Urban Renewal Authority. And you guys funded it 150. So that's a pretty big gap. And so if we're going to be looking at that type of gap for 2027's budget, I think that we all just need to start having those conversations before the city passes their budget and before the HARP starts to put their budget together. So our request today is really just continued conversation. And I'm talking for all the IGAs that the city and the county has. This one is obviously just hitting the table sooner because they're also working on their budget as we speak. So thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that is a 100% fair ask, Madam Mayor. And I'm, as a matter of respect and transparency, kind of what's the date where you guys put together your, your final numbers, where you'd really like to know from the county what our contribution is going to be for 27?
Sure. So our August meeting is the second Wednesday at 3:30, and that's our budget meeting. Because in the IGA, it does say this should be prepared and sent to the board and their part, and the boards you sit on no later than August 20th. So it'll be the second Wednesday is our budget meeting. And to speak to the 360, Commissioner McFeeters, when we sit down and we look at our budgeting process, I basically say, what does it cost to run this place? Then I look at patio leases, CAM fees, sponsorship money we've brought in, and we deduct that and we end up with the shortfall. That's why I gave you the budget summary. That's exactly how we do the math. We take in all the fees. Toyota stepped up in a big way for sponsorship, and that's why our request for 2027 is less. So we're receiving money from them that we can use for operations and maintenance and things on the Riverwalk. So it's just a process that we only have 5.5 employees, and that's been that way since 2000. We have never been able to increase staff. What I do is ask more of the staff we've got. Right? You know how that goes. So, looking at contracts, part of the math that we do is, like, I go to our landscape contractor, our security, animal mitigation, janitorial, and we ask for pricing. And then we do go out to bid every 3 to 4 years, and we get back pricing. And what we see in between is wage increases, like minimum wage went up. So that's, our contractors are very loyal to us, and they have stayed the course because they know that we don't have a lot of extra funding. So that, they're really our partners too. Like I have an electrician who never charges me full price because he loves the Riverwalk, and he's willing to take a hit financially to, he's not going to do $150 an hour. He charges 70, so we're all working together to try to piece it together. So that's basically how the math works. We just, figure out what does it cost. I look at the contracts. In next year's budget, 90% of our line items are a 0% increase. The only one we're going to increase on contract side is Don's Landscaping because they took on more property. So, they're all working with us. And I understand that you've got your own budget woes, but I didn't mean to say you as individuals are disrespectful. It's the process, right? I think that you're doing a great job, and I think it's a hard job. Mine is too, and I've been doing it a long time. So excuse my passion.
No, we get it, Lynn. I mean, so just real quick for clarification, as with any organization, you spend the most money on personnel as we
Yeah,
do too.
It's about 50-50 between maintenance and personnel.
Okay, and maintenance includes the drainage. I mean, it includes all maintenance.
It is. And all, the reason we can function with 5.5 positions is because we have the contractors who are not employees. So we do save money. If I had to hire those individuals into my staff, our personnel, expenses would be way higher. So the contract labor is actually less expensive.
Do you have I mean, I'm assuming, I know that you guys have a list of donors, of private businesses and entities that donate. I just, again, I try to bring this up almost with every budget deficit that I
Mhm.
know that we have, that the city has, that you have, to try and go out, because as we've seen with this fire, we have a very generous community.
Mhm.
And so maybe, again, we get creative in thinking of different ideas for capital campaigns or anything else like that. But again, I think that we are all more than willing to sit down and talk about all of our IGAs and come with specifics. And we need to come to a meeting very prepared to walk out of there with some decisions, meaning that we need to have all of our numbers and some different options to kind of shore up those shortfalls. Because the last thing that we want is to see the Riverwalk, not there, or, people being able to not use the amenities or boats or anything else like that. So we'll certainly work with you on trying to get there. Just as it's abundantly clear, we are where we are financially. We don't have the ability to go out and generate a whole bunch of new revenue by creating a new product or service or anything else. So I think that we come to some kind of work session or meeting with everything on the table as far as options.
Yeah, you just let me know when you want to, speak to that.
Okay.
One point on the IGA for Commissioner McFeeters, you do have the ability to appoint someone to this board. You do not have to serve on the board as a commissioner. Your attorney can read that IGA. And if that gives this commission the more cohesiveness to decide, then that's something to consider.
Yeah.
If you feel it's a conflict of interest, that's between you and your attorney. What we have always said to our board, like we do a little refresher once a year and said, when you sit in this room at the heart board, you put your heart pad on. When you go back to your elected position, you put that hat on and you make those decisions based on what you know about your organization. And we're okay with that because that's what everybody else on that board is doing. But if the county feels like it's too much of a conflict, like maybe we can talk about an appointed member. You take in some applications and you find, or another staff member, there's room for change. Just something to think about.
Thank you for that. And I do want to add, the county has been an enthusiastic partner of this project for decades, going back to when it first started. It was a vision of something that wasn't there, and it's a beautiful amenity to our community. We support it. We love it. I visit it. I've been honored to be on the board and hear the mechanisms that you use to fund everything, down to keeping a bathroom open, making sure it's safe for people. I mean, I know all the ins and outs of what the HARP board has to do. And I would say, it's a matter of just recalibrating. We are in a different time and season on this board, but in prior boards, funded the new boathouse out of money that was given by the county to support that project. So I would say the county's been a good partner. I think this year has been a really challenging year for us because we've had a lot on our plate, a lot of decisions to make financially that prior boards have not really had to do. And so clarifying and having these conversations is the first step to getting that clarity for you and for us. And I appreciate you taking the time to come in. I did want this meeting to be held so that my other board could understand where you all are coming from and what the challenges are moving forward for you to maintain that space. And it's important to our community that we do support what is important to our community, but we also have to make these tough calls. And so this information is helpful. I think the conversation's been good. And I think, this is an important first step for us to continue that communication
No,
for you.
I appreciate the opportunity just to communicate with all three of you.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucero serves on the HARP Foundation. Commissioner Swearingen had served on the HARP Authority Board, and now you are. So I think you all understand pieces of what we do. And I think just the early communication, even if it's, like it's not going to be good, Lynn, at least I can back out of that 360, but I might have to cut contracts. Like we don't have fat in the budget. I don't even have a person I could furlough.
Yeah.
Right.
We're that tiny. So I appreciate your time. And
Can I ask one more specific question
Sure.
about your budget here? You have 183 grand for capital outlay. Can you kind of talk about some of your plans for 27?
Sure. So we put in a request to urban renewal for the capital outlay, and that is Physicians Fountain needs new the computer and show hardware that runs the whole show needs to be replaced.
What is,
help.
can you repeat that then? Sorry.
So it's the splash pad by Angelo's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Physician's Fountain, it's kind of our words. The splash pad needs extensive work. The El Pomar fountain that's out by the boathouse is leaking, so the basin needs to be sealed. We've tried to caulk it, like to do like minor repairs. It doesn't work. We're losing like half the basin of water every single day. We've got sidewalks that are crumbling. It just, yeah, I mean, concrete's expensive. Most of what we do is repair concrete. The trip and fall rate at our venue is very low because we pay attention to that. Some of the pavilions need to be repaired because the metal is rusting on the roof and the pillars, so it's kind of a safety issue. So there's pretty good list. And we didn't do much in the capital outlay for this year. We had to take that money back and put it into operations for the contracts that needed the increases. So
Okay.
um,
Thank you.
you bet.
And please don't apologize for your passion. We need passionate people running important organizations because that's what makes our community
It
great.
is.
So,
It's just, I've been doing this a long time. I'm the history keeper, so to speak. So, people come and go through this process, but I'm here to stay. So I'm going to take care of the
Appreciate
place with your help.
Thank you.
The only other thing that I might add is just when we reconvene to talk about all IGAs, if you could look at some kind of going into that capital outlay of if we spend this, we save this.
Oh, sure.
As,
Yes.
even your pipe dream, whatever fixes down on the Riverwalk, if we
Right.
were able to do something with this, it would save it would save us 150K a year, whatever that is.
Yeah, the El Pomar fountain, for instance, we probably save $40,000 a year in electric bills.
Yeah.
With the constant like compressor running because that
Right.
water is leaking out, like there is some value to having those conversations.
Yeah,
so.
and I think that's that makes all of our decisions a lot easier to be able to say, well, yes, it's gonna cost this up front, but we're
Right.
gonna save this.
Right.
Chair
No,
and
agreed.
Commissioners, may I just ask, have we received from HARP the latest line item detail supporting the $1.6 million and change expense overage?
do we have your line item budget available that you could share with us?
Well, it's not been approved by my board yet. So the process is that when we meet second Wednesday of August, they approve that and then I send it out to the partners. In the past, I'd sent it to the county manager and it's distributed to you after August 20th. So
Okay.
we will have that to you and you can look at the line items. And we usually do a year over year comparative sheet for you. So you can see 25, 26, 27. So you can follow our expenses and our revenue.
If I may, it may be helpful for the board to also have a 3-year trend of your self-generated revenue, CAM fees, visitation, boat
Right.
operations, sponsorships.
And
et
that is
cetera.
what we provide when we
Okay,
send
great.
the request over because we're super transparent about what we do. We don't
Great.
have a lot of money.
We
And the
also
money
have,
that we have is what you give us. So
That sounds wonderful. Do you also have, your, if you, wanted to share it, performance indicators for your, for your budget? I guess you do it with your budget, visitation, attendance, event scheduling, facility conditions, all that stuff.
yeah. So there are no gates or fees to walk the Riverwalk. What we look at is sales tax. The city provides a sales tax report for our area. I can give you like boat ticket sales numbers, but as far as knowing,
Visitation.
yeah, I mean, like
traffic.
our KPIs are hard to track. They really are hard to track. So I
And
can
with
give
the
you what I
capital
have.
outlays, are they, included with them, or is it is the expense, cost, sustainability of useful life included in those analysis, or?
We do. We have an extensive maintenance program. We look at a 10-year timeline to see like what's the useful life of a water heater, a toilet,
Right.
the HVAC systems. Yep.
I
we
think that
do
would help the board get a holistic picture of
Sure.
where the money's
Sure.
going. So,
And,
thank you.
and I know you're new to the county, so if you want to come down to the Riverwalk, you just give me a
I've been
call.
down there
Give me a
and
call.
and I love it.
I
love
give
it.
you,
It's the
give you
first
the
thing I did.
pro, I'll give you the pro tour.
Oh, love it.
Okay, pro tour.
her up.
Love it.
That
Take
that
her
goes
up
for
on it.
everybody. You get the pro tour.
I loved
Yeah,
it.
take
Thank
her
you.
up on it.
Yeah, and you
go
can
on.
tell me what you need to make decisions. I'm happy to provide.
Wonderful.
So thank you for your
We
time.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Lynn.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you
ma'am.
all. Cool. Okay, that'll bring us into operational updates. Anybody got anything?
I think the only operational thing will be covered in exec for me, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Good, Paula.
Good.
Okay, that'll leave us with a request for executive session, Mr. Hurd.
I am requesting executive session to hold a conference with the county attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 24-64024B regarding Project Falcon and the roles and responsibilities of the county in response to the Aspen Acres fire, as well as to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing a strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators pursuant to CRS 24-64024E concerning Project Falcon and IGA with the City of Pueblo regarding municipal holds and concerning state and federal contracting requirements related to the Aspen Acres fire.
Thank you. I will ask for a motion to go into executive session for the reasons cited.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're in executive session.